Hi, welcome back. I'm gonna learn how to do like the intro and make it look nice and pretty, but right now I'm down to the nitty gritty. So I want to talk about my nephew's case. My nephew case is very, very important to me because he literally, I'm trying not to get emotional. He is literally incarcerated because of in retaliation for my actions at work. Now, I'm gonna try to break down the important facts of why. The first thing is number one, and this is why I say all the courts are corrupt based on everything that happened to my case and everything that happened in any other case. As a point of reference, if you are a New Jersey judicial employee, you have to inform the court of any and every family member who is involved with the courts. If somebody gets a parking ticket, if you have a settlement with the you know how AT&T just settled a case or Panera Bread and you get a thing in the mail, there's been a settlement, your name is in it. If you want it, you got to inform the court. If you have a family member with a charge in any county in the state of New Jersey, family members all over, I'm from North, Brick City, shout out. I got family people. You got to let the court know that you got a family member involved with the courts. I let them know and I did this. I'm gonna say it was my fault I did this because number one, I had integrity. Number two, I know that they didn't. I knew that the agency I was working for at the time was a corrupt government entity, but this is the brainwashing that I was brainwashed because I did what I was supposed to do, and I reported that my nephew had a case. When I reported that he had a case, the court immediately said this case is a conflict. This case is a conflict. It has to be transferred to Union County. He had a juvenile matter at the time. It was transferred to Union County. His case is in Union County. Fine. As his aunt, I'm going to always advocate for my nephew. I was told by the court that I had to keep his case confident. Absolutely not. I'm not keeping anything that's done to my nephew is not confidential. There's nothing you can do or say to make me not talk about what the New Jersey Judiciary, the Department of Corrections, the state parole is doing to my nephew. For them to attempt to tell me what they're doing is confidential and I can't talk about it, yeah, no. I don't care who you there's nothing gonna stop me from talking about what's happening with my nephew. And I've been told that it's confidential. You can't talk. Nah, homeboy. No. So his case was in Union County. As his aunt, I'm going to always advocate for him. I'm going to advocate for him for my last breath. I was an aunt before I was a mother. I was an aunt 15 years, 13, 14, 15, before I was a mother. So I'm going to always advocate for my nieces and nephews. Period. Nothing can be done about that. Period. So I was advocating for him. I was talking to whoever I needed to talk to on his behalf, as an aunt was supposed to do. He was assaulted while he was in the facility. I wrote a letter to the judge, said, Your Honor, he's being assaulted. He ran from the facility, which is a violation of probation. If you get a violation of probation, but it wasn't really a violation because you was assaulted. You ran because they was kicking your butt. Wrote a letter to the judge. I did not say who I was or what I was. I wrote a letter like, no, he was assaulted. That's why he ran. He was assaulted twice. The judge continued his probation. The corrupt prosecutors in Middlesex County went to my sister and said they're going to transfer the case back to Middlesex County. The case was in Union County. The case was fine. If the courts was looking for retribution or was looking for to hold him accountable, they could have held him accountable in any county, supposedly. If you want to hold a person accountable for their crimes, you can hold them accountable in any county. They wanted retribution. They wanted retaliation. They wanted to teach me a lesson by going after my nephew. He told my sister that he was going to transfer the case back to Middlesex County and throw my nephew in Jamesburg. Why would you want to throw a mentally ill black person in Jamesburg? Because that's where you felt he was needed. Even though he had mental health issues, he had a history of mental health issues since he was 15 years old. And you're not dealing with a violent person. You're not dealing with he was on probation because he went to the bathroom at somebody's house and the person who was in the house sister called the cops because her brother, she was 18, the brother was 14, 15, my nephew age. He was going to the bathroom. He literally got a burglary charge for going to the bathroom and somebody. That's the how we criminalize black people in New Jersey. So that's why he was on probation. So then he had to go to the facility. So now you have it. So after the Middlesex County prosecutor determined that this case was a conflict, and this case, I don't know who determined it. I believe it was actually the administration of the courts, the trial court administrator, who is the head administrator for the New Jersey Judiciary, as she's the he or she is the executive of the entire county. They decided that this case was a conflict. This, and when I say corrupt, I use that word because that's what it is. I don't like to sugarcoat. So I'll say allegedly if that makes them feel better. So this alleged corrupt prosecutor decided that he wanted to transfer the case back to Middlesex County because, again, and I feel like this is something that needs to be addressed. This is why I call the FBI. This is why I call the DOJ. This is why I call the governor's office. This is why I will continue to call. And this is why I will continue to do videos. This is why I will continue to do interviews. This is why I will be writing my second book, because there's no way that I'm being told that these things can be done and they're wrong, and I just got to sit here and take it. I'm supposed to sit here and just twiddle my thumbs and watch me pay my taxes for alleged corrupt individuals to dole out the type of quote unquote law and justice that they feel any and everybody should have? Absolutely not. So he decided he wanted this particular case for no other reason but to you know what they say about people, for no other reason to have it in Middlesex County. Now, this Middlesex County is the same county Asana Shakur was arrested in and charged, and those charges are false charges on her. Fraud. She has a warrant out for her arrest for 40 years for crimes she didn't commit just because she was a black woman, and they wanted to hold her accountable for a crime she didn't commit. So this is the same county. So he decided that they wanted to take this case again. If they wanted they could have got justice in Union County. But I guess the prosecutors in Union are not corrupt. I don't know. I don't know what was it about this particular case that they had to have it back in Middlesex. And myself personally, I had an EEO complaint, I had a right to sue letter. Though I knew that I worked for white supremacy, allegedly, and I knew that the KKK blood ran through the majority of the people that I work with. Like they was working for they um yeah, they related. Their same action, their same activity. When people look at the individual who's running for president with 91 convictions, his attitude is reminiscent of the attitude of the criminal division manager in Middlesex County as we speak. They have the same attitude where they think they can do anything and get away. Allegedly, they have the same attitude where they can treat people of color any way they want to. I don't say people of color, treat black folks who my ancestors were slaves. This all was done to me and my nephew because our ancestors were slaves in this country. So they assume that they can continue to get away with it. So they transferred the case back. This case is still a conflict. They transferred partial the case back. He's still had some of his case in Union County, some of his case in Middlesex County. Why would you do that with a case like this? Case has so many different issues. Why didn't you just leave it where it was? That's number one. Number two, a court order was issued against me. As an aunt, again, I'm going to advocate for my family member. For you telling me, and this is where I feel like it's a line drawn in the sand. This is the line that's drawn in the sand where you telling me that I cannot advocate for my nephew just because you give me a salary every 2 weeks. You got me. I try not to be ghetto. You got me and that's where I feel like at that point, again, anything else they did to me, but me and my lawsuits against them, I'm not saying I don't mind. I don't care. You could do whatever you want to do because I'm a go after. I wrote a book. I did documentaries. You could do whatever I am fair game. You going after my mentally ill nephew? I'm supposed to just sit here and just let y'all do it? No. That's where the line was drawn in the sand. For them to tell me that I cannot advocate for my nephew simply because you give me a check every 2 weeks, thank God I was fired. Me being fired helped me be able to, in these past 21, 22, 23, 3 years. I was fired 3 years on February the 26th. This 3 years allowed me to start my business, to do my documentary, to start my business, write my book, and my passion for my goal. I was able to finish my master's and everything. So I was fired for a reason. I thank God for that. So the court order was issued against me, and I knew at that point it was what it was. It was, again, we at war, and they are going to try to use their corrupt advantages that they have to try to intimidate me, to try to keep me, teach me a lesson about who's in control of what. Now, it didn't work because the way I'm set up, I'm gonna just get louder, and I'm gonna just go like, the only way they get away with their corrupt activities and their actions allegedly is if I'm silent about that. And I don't know if you noticed, but I like to talk. So the case was transferred, a court order was issued, and this is when he had his juvenile matter. This is 2017. At the same time in 2017, I was brought up on false departmental charges, which is fraud. What I did in my last video about the money laundering scheme that the New Jersey Judiciary and other New Jersey departments conduct, where they systematically go after Black employees for departmental charges they know they're not guilty of, or they may be guilty of, but they don't go after other employees because they know that the Black employee is not protected and they will be able to get those funds. And it also affects their pension. So if you want to get money, you want to save money on your budget, all you have to do is go after Black employees in the state of New Jersey, and you'll be able to save on your budget because the state of New Jersey know Black employees are not protected. They know Black employees are going to be incarcerated, or guilty of those charges, and they're not going to protect them. And that's what happened. That's the New Jersey Judiciary, is what I'm alleging in my lawsuit. With why I contacted the DOJ, why I contacted the U.S. Attorney, because they need to be investigated for these things. So he was an adult and he had an adult charge. I'm gonna try to keep this with my nephew instead of my case, because even though they're intersecting, I just wanted to talk about my nephew and why I say allegedly the New Jersey judiciary is allegedly corrupt, even though if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, quack quack. So he was 18 years old. He had this charge. I told my sister, you got to get this case out of Middlesex. I know I'm working with Hitler and his friends and his cousins. Like, you can't tell me the people I'm working with are not, do not have that mentality of they are the superior race. You got to get this case out of here. I knew they were going to try to come after him because I was holding them accountable for the same expectations they were holding me accountable. My sister wrote a letter. She was calling, they wasn't saying anything. She wrote a letter, a very detailed letter, stating that he needs to get out of here because I had a EEO complaint against them. It was an immediate, she wrote that letter, gave that letter to the head public defender. It was an immediate change of venue. A change of venue is the location of the court. An immediate change of venue is you want to change this case to another venue. And it was an immediate hearing, meaning it was an emergency. So at this immediate change of venue hearing, the Middlesex County prosecutor, Caroline Belak, told my nephew if he did not sign the plea for 5 years nearer, he would be sent to prison for 10 years. My nephew has mental health issues. My sister was at the court. There's a recording of the hearings. She went there and she was fighting. No, he shouldn't sign. We're trying to get him an attorney. We don't even have an attorney to advocate for him to get a plea that we believe will be justified. We're trying to get it transferred out of here. Why would the public defender who was advocating on his behalf then give him a plea for him to stay in that county? He signed it. He had mental health issues. He signed it. He sealed his fate. And that is why I say the Middlesex County is is corrupt. In addition to that, after he signed it, I, who had a court order against me at the time, but I cannot access his files or talk about anybody, was assigned to complete his pre-sentence report. I had a court order where if I say to anybody I have this plea, the conflict of interest. If I don't say that and I work on the case, a conflict of interest. I had a court order against me. I couldn't say nothing about this case. But the New Jersey Judicial, this is why I said we're not working with the best and the brightest. I was assigned to complete that pre-sentence report. At the time, we had 20 probation officers. Any one of those 19 could have been given it, and they gave it to me. We're not working with the best and the brightest. So after this happened, this was September the 11th, 2019. I filed my lawsuit approximately 3 weeks later. In my lawsuit, I named the prosecutor, Alexander Beatty. I named the public defender, Caroline Belek. I named the trial court administrator, a couple of criminal division managers. The criminal division manager in Hudson County is named in my lawsuit. Again, it's not just Middlesex County, it's all of New Jersey. The the criminal division manager in Middlesex was appointed twice since my lawsuit. When I first had an issue with her in 2017, when I reported her for being racist and she brought me up on those departmental charges, she was just a supervisor. She was promoted to the assistant criminal division manager, then the criminal division manager since my filing of my lawsuit, which proves my case right. So I'm glad she's in that position. Every interview, I will gladly note that she's in that position since the lawsuit was filed. I thank them for that because they're helping me prove my case. And trial court administrator's assistant, the hearing officer who heard the facts of the case and chose to ignore them. Any and everybody I could file against, I wanted to name the judges, but they are immune, unfortunately, so I couldn't. And I filed my lawsuit against them. My nephew, immediately, the public defender's office gave him a pool attorney. This pool attorney immediately filed a motion to have my nephew withdraw this plea that he signed in September. It's now November. To withdraw the plea he signed in because he should have never been offered the plea. Based on his mental health, based on his education. I do not have a law degree. I did not have a conversation with this attorney before he submitted the paperwork saying the same things I said in my lawsuit. I'm not even sure. He didn't even read my lawsuit at the time. It was brand new. It was fresh. It wasn't even 90 days old. Literally, I filed October 11th, October 26th, 29th, 27th, 29th. My sister got the letter. There's no way he read the lawsuit. But he filed based on his education, his experience as an attorney of how he felt this case. This individual should have never been offered this plea, should have never been signed this case. He got mental health issues. He said that. Now, here's the trick. If the courts, this is why I say they're corrupt, allegedly. If the courts would have ruled in the favor of this attorney, that would have proved me right in my lawsuit. So when I'm in court with federal, I'm like, see, look, the Superior Court in Middlesex agreed. That's why they sent him to prison, because they didn't want to prove me right in my lawsuit. But what they did by proving me right is just prove how corrupt that they are. And that's what I don't think people understand. When somebody tries to hurt you, but they're really helping you. In the Bible, it says they will use your enemy as your footstool. By them doing what they did, they enable me to get a career. I have a career with holding the corruption allegedly accountable. Because I can sit here and say I believe that they're corrupt because AYCD. You look at it, wait a minute, look at his case, do the investigation for yourself. Wait a minute, well, why would they do that? Why would you have an emergency? So they're making themselves look guilty. So everything I'm saying is the truth. So I thank you for proving my point. So after that happened, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. At his hearing, February the 3rd, 2021, I had a panic attack. I had a panic attack after everything they did to my nephew before then. I'm not going to apologize for my mental health. I'm not going to apologize for having a panic attack. I'm not going to apologize for none of that because number one, I should have never been in that situation. I was fired for creating an appearance of impropriety when it was the New Jersey Judiciary who created the appearance of impropriety when they transferred a case that they said was a conflict back to the county where the conflict existed. They literally fired me for doing what they did. And I don't have a problem with it because I'm able to speak freely because the court order is no longer in place. So again, thank you. So I'm not going to apologize for having a panic attack. I'm not going to be shamed. I'm not going to be embarrassed. After everything they did to my nephew, I don't drink. I don't smoke. They lucky, you know what I mean? I ain't going to say it, but they lucky. Oops, upside your head. Okay. So during my nephew's hearing, I had a panic attack and I was fired. They sent my nephew to, and I saw the corruption. This is the thing I don't people understand. When I worked there for 9 years, I saw the corruption. Everybody who works for the court sees the corruption. Everyone. Ray Charles can see it. Y'all, they're corrupt, allegedly. So it's not a, a shock that I saw it and I reported it. We see what it is. I just believe and assume that they thought that I would just sit there. I don't understand why on God's green earth people assume that I would just sit there and take it. And I asked my coworker, we had in a lawsuit together, Carl and Lane, did they expect me to see them abusing me? Because they're abusing me. They're breaking the law against me. They're committing crimes against me and my family. And I'm just supposed to sit there and just be like, yeah, treat me differently. Bring me up on charges. Don't bring nobody up on charges. Bring me up on false charges, even though you know I'm not, and I'm just supposed to take it. I assumed that that's what they had thought. I don't know what to tell you. It's not happening over here. So after I was fired, I literally filed, I got an attorney. Now, when I filed my lawsuit, I did not have an attorney to represent me. I filed with no attorney. I finally got an attorney. I went to that attorney and I said, it's a court order. I'm going to fight for my nephew. You need to go and file a motion to get that court order dismissed. My attorney said, you're fired. The court order is no longer in place if you're fired. I said, I know how white supremacy works. I don't want me to be going on interviews, doing podcasts, and writing books, and they come back and be like, Your Honor, we got this court order, and she's talking. My attorney filed the motion to get the court order dismissed. The judge said, baby, what you here for? You wasting my time. The court order is dismissed. Middlesex County prosecutor filed a motion to still keep the court order in place, even though I no longer work here. And that was done to silence me from talking about what happened. Why, as a private citizen, now I no longer work for you. I'm not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. You're not doing none of that. You have no ties to me. I can say whatever I want to say, allegedly. So now you're going to tell me while I don't work for you, I can't talk about what you did? Interesting. Real, and to tell me it's how is it confidential if I'm accused you commit crimes? How can I get it investigated? How can I bring attention to it if you're committing a crime? If all you do is, oh, you have to keep this confidential. This confidentiality is used to silence people. It's not used because it's, oh, we have to remain integrity to who? You have to show integrity to who has integrity. When you look at the motto of the New Jersey judiciary, it is BS. Integrity, customer service, child, the morals. Them people they done lost their ever loving mind. I be trying not to be ghetto, but they done lost their mind if they think that they, as the New Jersey judiciary, stand up to any of their motto. They literally playing in people's face. Like, it's ridiculous. So I'm gonna move on because the fact that their integrity is part of their motto and they don't even know how to spell it on a good day is funny to me. So after my nephew, they sentenced my nephew to 3 years in prison. My nephew did those 3 years. They said he would get parole in October. He did not get parole. The Department of Corrections, this is where the Department of Corrections and Department of Parole come in, and I say they're all co-conspirators with this corruption. The courts found that a mentally ill person guilty for a crime that they know that they should not have charged him with. It shouldn't even been in this county. They transferred and said there's a conflict because I worked there. They had a change of venue hearing, the public defender, the prosecutor, all getting together. And this is why I say that RICO charges should be had. Because at the end of the day, you cannot, I don't care if you don't like a person, you cannot use your job to go after a person just because you don't like them. If you didn't like the fact that I was holding you accountable for being racist, you shouldn't have been racist, boo-boo. Because according to the policies and procedures and your code of conduct training that you made me take every year, you couldn't do the things you did to me. They were literally abusing us while they were the criminal division manager would be the person standing up saying what the code of conduct was and how you couldn't break these rules and how you couldn't belittle people or discriminate while they were belittling and discriminating against people. I was looking at them like, what? It didn't even make sense to me, but this is what was happening. And I thought something was wrong with me because it was like, and I would raise my hand I was there for 9 years. Every year I had this training, I would raise my hand and say, do the managers know? Do the white women know that they can't discriminate against us because they don't act like they know? And I stand firm in what I'm saying, Middlesex County, and how they think like Hitler and how they have the white superiority complex and how they treat and talk to people. I'll say allegedly if y'all make y'all feel better, but that's how y'all treat black people. You treat black people like we are less than. You had me messed up when you thought that I would sit there and be okay with that treatment. It's cool. You learned your lesson. You flipped around and found out. I'm not the one. Now, he got parole February 11th, 2022. My nephew out for 6 weeks. He was doing good. He was going to counseling. He was going to therapy. He was going to parole. He was doing everything he needed to do. We tried to get him housing. Due to COVID, they had housing where if you were in a shelter, you could get immediately housing and they put you in a hotel. He was staying with me. We put him in the shelter. He got in the shelter. From the shelter, he was going to go and get the housing within a week. Something happened at the shelter. I think he was smoking cigarettes in the bathroom, and they violated parole. Put him in a facility in Camden, New Jersey. In the facility they put him in Camden, New Jersey, my nephew has a hazel eyes. If he have a blue shirt, his eyes is blue. He have a green shirt, his eyes are green. He have on brown, his eyes are hazel. He's a good looking guy. Some residents saw him, wanted to fight him immediately. They didn't know him from Adam. My nephew kept to himself. He was taking his medication. He was doing fine. My nephew said the staff around was saying this. The staff around also lied in their statements. These people are lying in their statements. Officer Sass, SASS, New Jersey parole officer in Camden, New Jersey, lied in his official statement. And my nephew was going to the staff, telling the staff, like, I don't want to fight him. My aunt got a lawsuit. I'm making moves. My aunt got a lawsuit. I don't want to fight him. I got 3 years parole. I'm trying to get in trouble. This individual physically assaulted my nephew. Their videotapes. Physically assaulted my nephew. Their videotapes. My nephew went to the hospital. He broke his hand. The parole officer who transported my nephew to the hospital, who they had to watch him around. So it was a parole officer on duty. He called me on the phone. My nephew told me what happened. I talked to this officer to confirm. This officer said, I don't know his name. We're trying to get his name. I was informed it was a Caucasian person. The attorney for my nephew has his information. The name of the individual who assaulted my nephew and the parole officer. My nephew did not initiate the fight, did not instigate the fight. My nephew went to staff. You could see the videotape of my nephew going to staff trying to de-escalate the situation and tried to avoid the situation. But the staff couldn't stop it because in this facility, staff can't get involved. He should have a parole hearing in 4 to 6 weeks, but he should be placed on parole because he didn't do anything wrong. He literally was assaulted. Officer Sass, SASS, Officer Sass in Camden County, New Jersey. I told my nephew was in prison. He was talking to me every day, explaining you taking your medication. He had surgery in his hand. Fine. Couldn't get to my nephew. My nephew is in Mercer County Jail. Mercer County Jail. My sister goes to visit him. A week later, he wasn't calling. So she goes to visit him. The correction officers at the facility say my nephew refused the visit. Trigger warning. My nephew not going to refuse a visit from his mama. He's not going to refuse a visit from nobody. He's not going to not call home. Mercer County refused to give him access to the phone. Refused to let my sister come. And my sister, she was raised in HE double hockey sticks. She was like, no, I need to talk to a warden now. I need to talk to somebody now. My son not going to deny no visit. My son not going to call home. We ain't speak to him. We ain't heard from. She was raised in HE double hockey sticks. Within a week, not even a week from her wanting to speak to this person, they transferred my nephew to Trenton State Prison. Now, at the end of May 31st, he had a physical at St. Peter's Hospital. He was released. He was in perfect health, fine, taking his medication, good. That is important. He broke his hand in this fight April 11, 12, 13. I'm not sure. He got to Mercer County Prison maybe on the 17th. I'm in between the 15, 14, 15, 16 because he was in the hospital, had surgery, stayed at the hospital. He was in the medical unit for like a week. Then he was in Mercer County. They tortured him so bad. Mercer County Correctional Facility tortured my mentally ill nephew so bad on behalf of the New Jersey Judiciary because in his paperwork it says about this person in this case. They tortured him so bad that when he got to Trenton State, less than a month, it was maybe 2 weeks since he was released from Cooper's Hospital. And when you release, you can see the discharge summary in their medical state. His medical state was so bad he was in psychosis. I received a call from Trenton State Psychiatric Hospital, and they like in the prison. What the heck happened to him? His psychosis was so bad. I'm trying not to cry. They said that they were refusing to give him his medication. They were torturing him. If he called on the phone right now, the only thing he's saying is what they did to him while he was at Trenton State Correctional Facility. They tortured him while he was there for no reason other than the fact that for no reason for no reason. They called me saying what the hell happened because he was just released in February, and for his psychiatric health to be this bad, what is going on? He has two discharge summaries from two separate hospitals. Cooper Hospital in South Jersey and St. Peter's Hospital gave him a clean bill of health. Why is his psychiatric state so bad when he go to Trenton within 3 weeks at this? They were torturing him. Then he's at Trenton State. Trenton State tortured him. Trenton State Prison in the state of New Jersey had been torturing my nephew since he got there. In addition to torturing him, parole Officer Sass, SASS Officer Sass in Camden, New Jersey. The videotape that shows that my nephew was not the aggressor, that shows that my nephew went to staff, the other staff who was giving the statements, all that evidence disappeared. When we hired an attorney, the attorney literally said they got the evidence. I said, did you see the tape? The attorney sent me an email, said, what tape? I said, there's a tape. He contacted the state of parole. The parole said there ain't no tape. Now all of a sudden there's no tape. There's no tape. Luckily, the parole officer, again, he's not a person who, I guess he didn't know that he was supposed to cover it up like the rest of the corrupt officials and told me about the tape. Officer Sass said, oh, we don't have the tape. Now, first of all, they didn't have it. Now we don't have it. Do you understand the individual who assaulted my nephew? That tape was used to convict him for a parole violation. And we don't even know if that person had a parole violation. We're trying to find out if that person received a parole violation. That person only had 9 months. And that person was saying he didn't care about fighting my nephew because the program was 8 months. He had 9 months. He'd just do his time. He wanted to fight my nephew. My nephew was like, no, I got 3 years. I'm not trying to fight you. All the individuals that was in Camden, New Jersey at this facility who wrote statements saying my nephew was not the aggressor, the videotape of my nephew being assaulted mysteriously disappeared. So when I say it's corrupt or that they're coming after my nephew just because of my lawsuit, evidence is disappearing. By law, there's a rule where you have evidence, you have to turn it over because that evidence could be exculpatory. If you're charging somebody of something, you can't be in court like, oh, the videotape showed. No, just show the tape. You don't have to tell me what the tape shows. You show me the tape and I can see it for myself. Officer Sass, SASS, Officer Sass, a parole officer, literally in his statement, said in his statement that he misplaced it. So when we talk about the corruption, when I talked about how Black people were brought up on departmental charges for charges they didn't even commit, and they make sure that you are suspended, I guarantee you Officer Sass was not suspended for losing evidence in a case. I guarantee you he wasn't. This is where the corruption comes in case. So I'll say allegedly if that make you feel better, but call a spade a spade. How you just getting rid of evidence? So he went before they said that you don't have anything because you can't even say the person violated because it has to be egregious. They say he violated because he got put out of a program because he fought. And he fought in self-defense of himself. It wasn't like he was aggressive or the aggressor. Officer Sass literally wrote in his statement against my nephew that my nephew was the aggressor, which is a lie, which is forging documentation. And this is why I called the U.S. attorney, because you can tell me you don't have a tape. If the U.S. attorney asks you for a tape and you don't give a tape, you're going to be charged because there is a tape and you had to use that tape in the conviction of the other person. So the parole refused to get a tape. They lied and changed their statements, and this is why I say it's co-conspiracy. Co-conspiracy with all the entire branch of government. Just because I filed a lawsuit against them, now all they had to do was not be racist against me, and I'm supposed to keep all of this confidential. The audacity for them to honestly sit here and say that now I can't talk about what you did. You think I'm not going to talk about what you did to my nephew and the corrupted his case? My nephew got his own documentary. He has the rights to what happened to him. His documentary should be dropping soon. Why would I be silent about what they're doing? They're actively doing this stuff to him. So that's what the Department of Court. You see what the courts did. You see what the public defender did. You see what the prosecutor did. Now you see what parole did. There's a videotape and you just don't want to give a tape up for the. And the fact that they think I'm going to just be like, it was raining today. You saw that snow? Yeah, it was a snowstorm. And sit there and just take it. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Larisha Speaks. I will be speaking about this till the cows come home. And nothing or no one will stop. So in addition to the courts, the public defender, the prosecutor, now we have the parole. Now we have the Department of Corrections. He's at Trenton State. Trenton State wouldn't let his attorney in to see him. No, let me go back to the parole. In addition to the parole refusing to give over evidence, he had a private attorney. His attorney, we paid his attorney $20,000 to speak on his behalf. At his hearing, the state of New Jersey parole was having conversations and having my nephew's hearing without his attorney present. My nephew has mental health issues. If you ask him what was he, I know he don't remember anything. He don't understand anything. So why would the state of New Jersey parole have a parole hearing without his attorney on record present, knowing that he has a private counsel? Because they didn't care about his attorney. They would want to try to screw him, and they were using it. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. So when I talk about the corruption, this is how they're corrupt. Now the Department of Corrections, they're not letting his attorney into the prison to see him. Before his parole, that they had my nephew didn't even meet his attorney because he didn't know we got him an attorney. And then that was the first time his attorney finally met his client because the prison wouldn't let him in. So you won't let his attorney into the prison to see him, which is a violation of the Constitution. They don't care about the Constitution. You won't let his family visit him. You won't give him access to the phone. They're giving him medication that counters each other, that causes memory loss, grogginess. We had an investigator go for my nephew to sign paper. That investigator is willing to testify of my nephew's mental state and how he was so lucid and he didn't understand. They were purposely keeping my nephew in a condition that messes with his mental state. Correction officers at Middlesex County, Trenton County, and Trenton State are telling other inmates my nephew is there for certain things so he could be harassed while he's in there. Officer Vera at Middlesex County was saying that he was in there for rape, so he could be assaulted. The Department of Corrections won't give him access to the phone. They're drugging him. They're doing things to him. And I guess I'm just supposed to sit here and I will be talking about this till the cows come home. The corruption within the Department of Corrections, the number of inmates who are in state facilities who died of an overdose, the number of people who are incarcerated for crimes they didn't even commit. We're going to talk about all that. That's why we're here. And I feel like God wants me to do it. I'm going to use my criminal justice degree. And I'm going to talk about the corruption within the judiciary, between the courts, the prosecutors, the public defenders, and if you know of any crime that was committed in any of these areas, please let me know so I could do a show on it, because this is unacceptable. And the only way we're going to get to the bottom of it is by I put it on the spotlight. How they're going after my nephew is unacceptable. I don't accept it. I am not going to be silent. I'm not going to be silent about it. I am going to continue to advocate for him. Now, he's expected to be paroled this summer, and he should be off papers in February. I am going to talk about this till the cows come home. And again, me being fired was a blessing because it was allowed me to write the book, do the documentary, and talk about this. So when I say, and then people always ask, why do you say they went after your nephew? Because they're hiding evidence. Because they're having a hearing without his attorney present. They're not letting his attorney into the prison to see him. They're not letting his family into the prison to see him. A correction officer, Officer Diaz, at Trenton State Prison. Every time we go, she's cussing us out and why are you cussing me? I didn't do anything to you. But you mad at me because I'm holding you accountable to your job? Again, public employees work for the public. I'm the public. I'm paying taxes. God forbid I don't pay the taxes. Y'all throw me under the jail. But y'all just thinking y'all can treat people any type of which way, and I have to stand there. I'm not the one to accept the abuse. And if you felt as though I would accept the abuse because my ancestors were slaves, you got another thing coming. I'm not the one. I'm going to hold all corruption accountable, especially crimes that's committed against me. And again, if you don't like that, that's a personal problem. Anybody who don't like the fact that I'm speaking or bringing attention to what's going on to me in my case and the corruption within the state of New Jersey, government officials, the New Jersey judiciary, the public defender, the prosecutor, the courts, the parole officer SAS, and the Department of Corrections, that's a personal problem. That ain't got nothing to do with me because I'm not the only one saying that they're doing these things. And if that's your problem, that's your problem. Good luck. God bless. More power to you. See you in the next episode.